Take a look at this story from Timcast.com. Biden breaks his 118-day streak of no interviews with appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, jokes about sending Republicans to jail.
Wow.
It's the same thing.
Wow.
It's all projection.
Yep.
But we're at this point now where Joe Biden goes on this primetime show. I think they only get like 1 million to 2 million viewers anyway, so it's not like it. And they're mostly old people.
So you're competitive.
That's I mean, I think we get more in the key demo than they do. But he goes on this show, and it's funny to him to say you got to send the Republicans to jail. But everyone laughs and they cheer for it. We're beyond the point where there's negotiation. Right now, I'm looking at some of these other prominent leftists on YouTube, and they're all like, January 6th hearing, blah! And they don't know or care about what really happened.
No.
I'll give you a good example, because I love bringing it up. When I said on this show, when it comes to trespassing charges, a person has to have been warned for it to be criminal.
Right.
The people on January 6th who were let in the building by police could not have known because it's a public building, and the cops opened the door and let them in. Now, the rioters, the people who fought with cops on the other side of the building, they're going to get arrested. They're going to be charged. They were fighting. It was violent. But we're going to see a lot of people who fight it, and they're going to say, I wasn't trespassing, the door was open. We've already seen it happen. The Young Turks run a story saying, I'm an idiot. I'm making it up. They conflate what really happened that day between the different sides of the building with all just rioting. And it turns out I was right the whole time. But those are the kind of people who are going to watch Jimmy Kimmel and are going to cheer for this. And there's no negotiating with them. Because I can say to them, they can watch my video where I say specifically, the rioters should be charged. And the people on the other side of the building who are let in by cops, you can't charge or it's going to be difficult. And they should be able to see like, they should be able to respond very simply with like, okay, those are fact statements. Instead, they just say, we don't care. We want to go to war with you. We want to hate you. So I don't see how there's reconciliation. I don't see how there's a resolution. If we can, it's almost like looking into a portal into a parallel universe, watching this interview with Joe Biden and Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel's like, the Republicans don't play by the rules. You know, he's like, well, if we play like them, then our democracy's in jeopardy. And I'm like, what are the Republicans doing?
Right.
Literally, what have they done? Have they passed bills? No, they're in the minority. So what are they doing that is breaking the rules? They're not doing anything. But Joe Biden go on TV and they all believe it. Yeah, I think watching that, it's like, you know, Scott Adams talks about one screen, two movies playing at the same time. We're all saying something different.
Right.
I think if you know the truth, you're not on the left. If you believe the lies, you're on the left. That's what happens.
Well, you mentioned Trump saying that Hillary would be in jail and compared the two. Part of what's different about this is Biden is referring much more vaguely to Republicans, and certainly is referring to Republican political leaders. I think we can infer that. But Donald Trump was talking about a specific political leader who is viewed by the vast majority of the public as being
over
corrupt.
50 friends commit
but who committed a specific crime
and
into
committed
leading
a specific crime.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, because look, I was in the military, and having the clearance that I had, if you just left a document or a folder on the table that said top secret, if you leave that in there empty and you leave the room, you can be charged.
Oh, for sure.
It's an empty folder.
Oh, but it was just yoga emails, right? That's what she said.
Look, we all smash our phone with a hammer every now and again.
That's true, yeah.
Well, you know, when you know, you work for the government, you're supposed to take a hammer to your phone, so that it's the craziest thing they did, but they did it.
Right.
That's
and I heard
amazing.
people say, well, maybe she didn't take, because there's courses that you have to take on what do you have to do.
Staff.
Right. So they're like, well, maybe she didn't take the course, and likely she didn't, but it doesn't mean that you're not culpable for violating law.
Yeah, well, I
you
thought
had the
ignorance
clearance.
is not an excuse.
Right.
Yeah.
She should be, according to the law, disqualified from holding office for destroying public record.
Yep.
Now, that's never going to happen.
I mean, she's disqualified because people aren't going to vote for her. But,
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
See, that's the funny thing, though, right? Voting works. And a lot of people just want to say it doesn't work, but I'm like, Donald Trump is kind of proof that if people... Look, nobody wanted to vote for Hillary Clinton. Slightly more wanted Donald Trump. Donald Trump wins.
The vast majority of people, even 18 months before they voted for Donald Trump, if you'd have told them you're going to vote for Donald Trump for president, they would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
A lot of prominent never-Trumpers are now on the Trump train.
Yeah. Right.
You know, we've had people on the show where in 2015, 16, they were like, Trump's awful, we can't allow him. And then they're like, well, you know, he wasn't that bad after all. They ended up voting for him. I think there's a lot wrong with Donald Trump, but I certainly think he did a pretty good job in a lot of areas. And it's remarkable how we went from 2019, no pandemic, best numbers of our lives, best economy. Then a pandemic happens and everyone's like, it's Trump's fault, when it's like, yeah, it was the governor's. Even right now, I have no problem saying a lot of the issues we're facing are remnants of what the governors did. And it's not just Democrats. The Democrats are the ones who held on forever and the Republicans backed away from it. But I don't blame Biden for the fact we had a pandemic. I blame him for specific policies he's enacted since he became president.
Right. You have people all the time, especially campaigning, they want to know where you stand on Trump. And the single question that you respond to people with, and this is the God's honest truth, is, listen, the reality is, for the most Americans, what we really care about is how much money we're paying at the pump and how much we're paying for food. That's what we care about. And so I tell people, are you better today under this administration or 2 years ago? For me, it's very clear that my family, my business, we were much better 2 years ago. Everybody was, whether they want to admit it or not.
Where do you stand on Trump?
That is the stance. I mean, I voted for the man twice. I'd be happy to vote for him again. Are you kidding me? I would vote for just about anybody compared to this moron that's in office right now. Are you kidding me?
That's a
I
good
vote
one.
for you for president. I've only known you for 2 days.
And
That's how bad
he
this
is
guy
a moron. So
Wow. Shots fired.
No,
I mean,
let's
it's
be
crazy.
real. Luke would be a substantially better president than Joe Biden. And it's
Yeah.
not because Luke is good at policy. It's because Joe Biden is a decrepit old senile man.
Yeah.
Senile old man.
That's not a compliment. All right. You're not helping me out here.
Yeah, it's like on a scale of like 1 to 10, where 1 is just the absolute worst and you're just like something's wrong with you, and 10 is you're the best leader ever. Luke's a 4 and Biden's a 1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it makes
We're
Luke
not getting better.
that makes Luke 4 times better than Biden.
Right.
And to be fair,
My
like a
first
4 is
act as president of the United States would to be abolish the U.S. government of the United States and make
There you go,
everything
yeah.
states' rights.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, you
Let
just went
the
from
states,
a 4 to
the
like a
cities
10.
decide everything for
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
Abolish all the government agencies, the ATF
Yes.
immediately, IRS, Federal Reserve,
The
all going
ATF
down,
is kinda
going
weird.
back on
Yeah.
the gold
A little
standard.
weird, yeah.
And,
3 things that are legal. That's kind of weird. But anyway.
I can't. I was
3
born.
things that are legal.
I was born in Poland. I can't even be a president.
Oh, man.
Oh,
But thank you. But thank you. Thank you for thinking of me in
if
such high regard.
Arnold didn't fix that yet, you're not going to. You don't change.
Oh, haven't we only had like 1 Irish Catholic president?
Kennedy.
yes,
Kennedy?
I believe Kennedy. I believe
Oh, okay.
Kennedy.
So that
That didn't
means
work
Seamus
out
is
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
how
It didn't work
came
out
out.
well for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He,
I
he
guess
tried,
the-
he tried to move against the big banks and
Yeah,
and the
something
CIA
happened there.
too.
Yeah,
Didn't make it.
I've heard
Yeah.
this. I've heard.
You
this.
could put a pumpkin in the White House and the country would run better.
We
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, we
You're
sure
right.
did. Yeah, it was very important. It's true. We tried that.
actually
It was
went
great.
It went really
Great.
well.
It went
I was
really
saying,
well.
the policies are listen, man, the reality is the policies under Trump made us stronger, and a stronger
Yeah.
America makes a safer world. We've seen that. I mean, for crying out loud, the man had peace deals in the Middle East. I'm 41 years old. We heard our whole life it's never going to happen. There's never going to be peace in the Middle East, and he started making peace deals. I mean, how I don't
Oh,
understand.
they panicked when that happened.
yeah, they
Yeah,
should have.
They didn't like
No,
that.
yeah, the establishment was like, but we need to blow up kids in the Middle East. What are we going to do? We can't have these
These
peace
guns
agreements.
too, yeah.
Oh, they're so mad. They're so livid. Trump was getting our troops out of Syria. He set a
Yeah.
timeline for getting out of Afghanistan. He was constantly complaining about how we've got troops everywhere. He's like, why do we have troops in Germany? This makes no sense. And I'm just like, this guy knows what's up.
Well, you know, he did move him around. He did bomb certain areas as well, but he did move troops out of Somalia.
I mean, bomb terrorists and generals of terrorist organizations.
Well,
Like
you know, it depends. It's debatable. There's some questions to ask specifically when it comes to American foreign policy and the unaccountable drone strikes. But he did take troops out of Somalia and stopped operations there. Biden, just a couple of weeks ago, introduced more troops into Somalia and just 2 days ago started launching airstrikes inside of that region.
Yep, more war.
Just 2 days ago. So
Look, the reality is anybody who advocates for war, as somebody who's been to it twice, is either never been to war or is profiting from it.
Yeah.
That's my stance on it.
Yeah.
I either believe that the vast majority of
Agreed.
Americans do not want their sons and daughters to go to wars on foreign soils, spill American blood on foreign soils that has nothing to do with American interests. I'm telling you right now, that's where the vast majority of Americans
And
stand.
what happened
Well-
to what happened to that was a left position. That was like the left was all about this.
Right.
And I remember the 2000s when it was just all protests. Obama's like, I'm going to get our troops up. And then he put our troops in.
Let's get them. Let's bring them back home. Bring back our boys, and then look where we are. Well, it's funny.
Obama said that he was going to withdraw the troops, draw down our forces. The first thing he does when he gets in, he says it's bombing families.
immediately.
Yep.
Now
the
look-
Alawaki family, which the Biden administration targeted those children, and then Trump targeted as soon as he got into office as well.
So as soon
That's
as
the
Trump got
crazy
in
story.
office, there was a commando raid in Yemen where now here's the challenge. Barack Obama ordered a drone strike which did result in the killing of a 16-year-old American citizen in Yemen. Why the U.S. bombed a civilian restaurant in Yemen, we have no real explanation. They said, oh, we were trying to get a terror leader. And they ended up blowing up some kid, an American citizen. Now, a lot of people point this out, and I think it's fair to. Donald Trump, one of the first things he does when he gets inaugurated, when he becomes president, is order a commando raid, which resulted in the death of a 7-year-old girl, Abdulrahman al-Awlaki's little sister. However, The death of Abdurrahman al-Awlaki, the 16-year-old, is well known and documented and admitted. The death of the little girl is claimed by the family. So there is a difference there. I still think Trump should not have been ordering commando raids in Yemen or helping Saudi Arabia in this manner. But there's a slight difference in the confirmation of these stories.
Yeah, lots of things, especially when it comes to geopolitics, that become a lot more complicated, a lot deeper down the rabbit hole than we could even understand on them, especially when we hear about the public stories and what really happened. There's usually a big discrepancy between both of those.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, quite honestly, we were talking about it earlier. We really don't even know what to believe anymore. There's so much.
Right.
There's so much propaganda, and this is from. I mean, not just our government, from everywhere. There's so much propaganda now that nobody knows what to believe anymore, and that's a huge problem. If the American people don't know who to trust for information, then
It's almost like that's on purpose. It's the demoralization. Yuri Bezmenov.
Right.
But especially about foreign policy, right? It's really difficult to get information about that
Right.
and report accurately. And so much of the information we get turns out to be untrue. You mentioned that you're a veteran. It's also interesting because I found that was not as important an issue to me until I started becoming friends with people who had fought in some of these wars, and they ended up red-pilling me on American foreign policy.
Yeah.
There's this idea that veterans are pro-war in some way. I have found that absolutely hasn't been the case. And if I'm not mistaken, was Ron Paul not the most donated to candidate by
U.S. service members?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the people who actually see this stuff almost always end up opposing
And
it.
his policy was non-interventionism. His policy
Complete
was taking the
non-interventionalism.
troops back into the United States and
Zero
taking care of
bases.
priority issues here inside of the United States, rather than, of course, being the policeman of the world, which I think there's some important context to, especially with the way that plan has played out in places like Afghanistan. That was an absolute mess and a huge investment of wasted money that made the situation that much worse on the ground.
And I just want to say this. I'm glad you mentioned that, just in case this didn't hit home for any of the audience members who aren't entirely familiar with Ron Paul and maybe just sort of vaguely know him as libertarian. Probably the most anti-war presidential candidate
right.
this
Ever,
country has
almost.
ever had.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dr. No.
Yep.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.